Backyard Convos Podcast.
Ma battre sur ma queue. Et puis après ça, ça climat là, il a shooté sous sa terrain déjà.
That's my problem. I understand he may have, okay, certain of the men, certain of the pastors before us, sir, they've made some mistakes.
Of course, but see, the thing is, every single person have made mistakes. My thing is, just because that yours didn't go public doesn't mean that you have to condemn somebody to hell because theirs was made public. That's my thing. My thing is just because that God did not allow your sin to be publicized doesn't mean that a sin is a sin.
Yes, sir.
A sin is it. What's right is right and what's wrong is wrong. What's godly is godly. What's not godly is not godly. That's not what we are discussing. What we are discussing is the fact that sometimes those younger ones would go ahead and just drag the name of those that made public mistakes instead of keeping their mouth shut and actually take those of shut the hell up and actually learn. You know what I'm saying? And actually learn and actually learn. So I'm content de Gamunyo dit comme ça, les ouais bab camarade prend di fait, take your bab in
take your bab.
Take your bab and mette la la.
Let me say it like this.
You know what I'm saying?
Cherchons beaucoup de l'eau, like ma we good.
Mette pour la dedans parce que one day the most unexpected thing could happen to you and you never thought that it would be you.
Yeah.
You never thought that you would be in that situation. And then now you look at it and be like, crap, I did not extend much grace in that area. Then now I'm in need of that grace.
You know what I'm saying?
But hey,
you sow.
I'm gonna need you to keep that same energy.
Exactly.
Oh no, keep that same energy. Keep the same energy when somebody was when you were part of
the mob.
You know what I'm saying? Mob dragging their names and all that stuff. Instead of praying for them, instead of contributing. And listen, if you don't have the capacity or the maturity to help someone go on a journey of restoration, keep it bouche fermée. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? If you can't pray, if you cannot find it in your heart to pray for them, keep it bouche fermée. You know what I'm saying?
I agree.
Don't go ahead and contribute more. Don't go ahead and kick them while they're down. If anything, you know what I'm saying, that one soldier is on the floor, that we need to go ahead and find a way to get that person back on base so that person can receive care.
That's what it is.
So,
pass.
Yeah, this thing got me hot.
I noticed. I'm down. I'm like,
I had to get this one up. I just
go, pass.
I hope people can edit that one. You know, go ahead and take it. Doesn't shut the hell up. And I actually said,
we'll let that slide. I ain't gonna say it again. So if you're offended by that, you're gonna have a hard time with us,
big time.
All right, okay. There's also another aspect of it I don't want to neglect. I don't want to neglect the cultural aspects of it. Remember, we're talking about a church that is in turmoil right now. We don't often address the Haitian church that way, but if we're being honest, it is in turmoil because there's a split happening between the older generation and the younger generation, and from day to day, month to month, year to year, that gap is getting wider, where they don't understand each other. All of a sudden, you have a mass exodus we've seen in the past. Well, it's COVID exposed it more, but it had been there before, where the youth is leaving. They're going. A lot of them went to the church that you were pastoring at. That's how we met. For those of you who don't know how, Pastor Webb and I met. Pastor Webb, he led a church. He was pastor at a church, and then I had a young woman who left my church, and I understood why she left. We had equipped her with everything we could equip her with, and then there was a lot more that she didn't need to be dealing with, and so she chose to leave. And I remember feeling bad about her leaving, but understanding that she had to leave. So I went ahead and I went to visit her at the church she went to, which was your church, and that is how we met, through a young woman who left my church. And I remember you took me into your office and we had a conversation, and that conversation has left an imprint on me as to how ministers, yes sir,
you got a good memory.
Yes, how ministers are supposed to interact with each other. It wasn't adversarial. It was, let me back you up, you back me up, so we can elevate a soul. To me, it had such an imprint on me.
It was a reflection of the level of maturity of where you were at that time. The fact that we could go ahead and have a conversation. Hey, this is where this person is at. This is where this person is at. And these are the things that you need to be aware of. These are the things that you don't, you know what I'm saying? In order to be able to serve this person to the capacity that, to basically elevate them.
I'm honored. I feel honored because I can remember there's another pastor who reached out to me, and he's young, so the fact that he had the humility and he had the wisdom to do this, I was blown away. He reached out to me and said, "Pas, I've got 2 young women who are no longer part of your ministry, but I know they were part of your ministry, and they told me that if I wanted to know about them, I should call you." The young woman and the young pastor called me and told me that they're coming in. I wanted to let you know this and that. I'm like, it's okay. They've already spoken to me. I knew that they were going to leave the ministry. I understood why they were going to leave the ministry. I've been praying for them to find a good ministry. I'm glad they found you. Now here's what we're going to do for them. This one was just baptized. We were having conversations. She's dealing with this kind of stuff. I need you to begin to pray for her on this one. So it was a passing of the baton, so that at the end of it, this soul did not get lost in the fold. To me, that's how church should work. You're not my adversary. We're on the same team. If the person has left my congregation and is now with you, let me explain to you how I viewed this person. This is what I've seen. This is how I believe we could help them in their walk with God. That has to be, but I think we're off topic.
Sometimes some of those Haitian pastors see those members as personal properties, man.
No, that's the problem. They're not your property.
That's God's people, man. We just so happen to be privileged and to be able to contribute to their betterment.
Oh man.
To be able to be able to help them grow and to be able to help them see Christ. But other than that,
okay.
That's just what it is.
Boss, we gotta talk culture. We gotta talk about culture, because one of the things that is here is that we have to see, with that divide that we were just talking about between the two generations, culture plays a huge role. Because there's something I hear said on our stages, in our pulpits all the time in church, and it is the dumbest thing I've ever heard. And if you ever say this, Pastor, forgive me, I'm saying you're speaking dumb stuff. Forgive me, I respect you, my pastor, but that was dumb if you said this. This is what they said. Yo, tout ça ici. That's not true. The young man who was born in America, who grew up in America, I want him to respect and honor his roots, his parents, as Haitian. I want him to respect and honor his culture, but he is not the 100% Haitian like the young man who spent his entire life in Haiti.
Correct.
Culturally, there are some differences that if we don't acknowledge them, we split apart on account of it.
Their upbringings are different.
It's the mindset, the approach to authority, the approach to hierarchy, which is an inherent part of church, is different. And if you don't understand that the attitude is different, it's weird. Like, for instance, culturally in Haiti, we're taught that if the pastor has said this, he has that authority, and because he has authority, we've learned to, culturally we learn authority, we bow to authority.
That's law.
In America, that's not what we learn. We learn in America, you need to question authority. I'm sorry, it doesn't sound good, but if in any instance you learn to question authority, the person says, go right. You're in America. Culturally, what you do is, why are we going right? What's the benefit of going right? Culturally, in Haiti, especially 5, 10 years ago, go right. Well, he said to go right, we must go right. That's the difference. Now, all of a sudden, because I ask questions, because I grew up in America, and I am culturally American. I eat Creole. I love my Creole. My Haitian worship, I want to worship in Creole, but because my approach is Americanized in that sense, the pastor will view me as an antagonist. When, no, it's not an antagonist, Pastor. You need to understand, you're dealing with 2 sets of people in your church. You're dealing with a group of Haitians who have a Haitian mentality because they grew up in that culture, and a group of Haitian Americans who have an American mentality because they grew up in that culture. Acknowledge that and see things for what they are, then we can progress. So culturally, we have a culture clash that is splitting the church apart.
Big time. Because, for instance, what works there may not work here.
Will not work here. We've seen it fail. It will not work.
The way that you used to run things, or the way that they used to say things, that doesn't work here anymore. So, as a leader, what happened is, if you are not flexible enough, if you are not progressive enough in your thinking, if you are not evolving in your thinking, in your mindset,
Pastor, using big
there
words.
is no way that you will be able to serve the people you are called to serve if you don't have that elasticity of the mind for you to be able to tap into their world, to be interested enough into their world in order to serve them effectively.
Let me play devil's advocate. You see, when you bring up that point, it is a point I wholeheartedly agree with. However, we have to address the other side of it, the other side of the argument. The Haitian pastor who you're telling this to, why he'll tell you, he will explain to you that m'pap changer l'évangile là pour moun.
It's not changing the gospel.
Thank you. Go ahead, elaborate on that.
It's not changing the gospel. Listen. The guys in the Bible, Jesus was riding on a donkey. Who's riding on a donkey here in the United States of America now? No. I mean, please. I mean, help me. Now, who carries cash these days? Very few people. Who? It makes absolutely no sense. Apostle Paul says that you have to become all things to all men so that some may be saved. All Apostle Paul was saying is that, hey, you have to be flexible enough to know how to make the necessary adjustment without changing the message. But the method of delivering the message may be different, but the message is still the same.
Exactly.
I don't know if you realize something. If there's an area in life that God is testing you in, and you keep failing that test comes in so many different forms but the test is still the same, but it just comes in form A, B, C. For those who've gone to school here, like, you could be sitting next to someone and we are all taking a test, and the questions are in different order, or the wording of the questions are different. We are still testing, but the format is different.
Exactly.
So now, if you are so stuck in your methodology that you are not willing to make the adjustment so that you can go ahead and bring them in and to be able to minister to them, to be able to serve them, you can't get mad at them when they go somewhere else that meets their needs.
That's what it is.
You can't blame them if they go ahead and go somewhere else where they are being challenged mentally, where they are being challenged from intellectual standpoint. That it's not just you reading John 3:16, but you're actually doing in-depth research, and you actually reading other books. The Bible is not the only book that you are reading.
Now we're talking about content right now. We're talking about presentation. Because the thing is,
absolutely.
Here's the thing. I want to make it clear that oftentimes the failure is because of the form, and then at other times it's because of the content. So we're talking both substance and form. The Haitian church often fails in, and that's part of the reason why they've left. Now, Mbable, I don't want to make it seem as if all the fault lies within the Haitian church or within the other generation. I want to make it clear that both sides have their own faults. They contribute to the mess. However, let's analyze this side first, the side of the church. As we analyze it, the form goes back to the idea of the pastor who says, I will not change the gospel. We're not asking you to change the gospel. We're asking you to change methodology, because you have to be able to evolve with the people that evolve. Since the people evolve, you need to understand that the presentation has to evolve. And because the presentation has to evolve, you need to understand that there are going to be certain changes. It is your job to make sure any changes that occur in our traditions does not affect the gospel, the content. What the Bible says, we're not negotiating what the Bible says. We're not changing it. We're
That's
not
the
updating
standard.
it. That's the standard. However, how we present it, that is allowed to be modified to make sure it can be consumed by a people with a different mindset, attitude, and approach.
I love how Jesus ministered to the woman at the well.
Talk to me. You about to go. He about to go. So
Okay.
he's about to go deep, y'all.
So-
He's about to go deep.
So,
I see it.
Stop it. So, because I love how he just starts a simple conversation
Mm-hmm.
that leads to this woman deliverance,
Mm-hmm.
and the whole entire town was ministered to,
Thank you.
received, because of how strategic Jesus. There is no way that you can actually be an effective leader
Mm-hmm.
without being strategic,
Yeah.
without being intentional about what you are doing.
Mm-hmm.
So sometimes it's not about the vision. It's not just about the vision, but it's how you go ahead and it's the how.
Yes, sir.
It's how you execute that vision. It's how you go about things that determines whether, if you get to see the fullness, the manifestation of that vision.
Mm-hmm.
Because Jesus, just simply by asking this woman for
Water.
for water, what the heck does water got to do with anything here?
Hot.
You know what I'm saying?
Apparently.
You know what I'm saying? A whole lot.
Mm-hmm.
But it was just a simple conversation. But I think sometimes we think too in depth
Mm-hmm.
that
We
That-
miss the simple stuff.
that we miss the simple stuff, or we ignore how important simplicity is.
Okay, I wanna pull you back, and because you were going
Talk
so
to me.
deep, I wanna drop it to the floor and make it simple, like you were saying. To the Haitian pastor who has not figured out that 90% of your audience does not speak French.
Bruh.
At the end of the day, I believe it shows me how much of an intellect you are. You are a well-versed, you are learned, you are a very intelligent guy, because, you know, in the Haitian community, French is supposed to be synonymous with intelligence. I don't know why, but that's what it is. Great, you know how to pronounce. However, 90% of these kids, every time you switch to French, they don't understand a thing that's happening.
I came from Haiti, and I lived in Haiti when I was 12. I have no interest whatsoever in this language called French. You know what I'm saying? I've gotten enough batons and riguas for dictée. You know what I'm saying? Was my absolute worst.
Monsieur
nightmare.
Pascal, au tableau.
I hated it so much because the complexity of the language with the rules and regulations and the accent to get the accent grave, participe passé, participe
Présent.
Listen, why are you disturbing my spirit with this whole French thing? I'm not
But
like
here's
to
the thing.
know.
To me,
Parlez créole
Okay,
avec moi,
let me
modèle.
explain it to you. This is my take on it. I love it. I want the children to be exposed to it.
Mhm.
I want this young generation to be exposed to it because it's part of our culture.
Mhm.
And I believe it is something, it is to me a birthright as a Haitian to have access and to be able to speak the Haitian language. I love it. The French language. That's us. That's ours. We went through hell and back, and that we've retained. That is part of our heritage. I'm okay with that. However, you need to be mindful of the audience in front of you. You see, I always put a number on it, but I have there were no there's no survey. I believe 90 to 95% of Haitians who were born in Haiti or grew up in Haiti do not speak fluent French. So it is 5% of the church that speaks French, but 90% of the songs we sing in worship are in church. So that means they're singing a song Sunday morning. They have no clue what they're saying. Now we're talking about the content now. We've gone from form. Now we're in content. 90% of the verse that you just read, they did not understand what the Bible said. And you're wondering why when Pastor Webb gets on there and Pastor Webb's like, hey, how y'all doing? And then speaks to them in their vernacular, in a language they can follow. They prefer, okay, let's go over and we'll have Pastor Webb minister to us because we'll be blessed there. You don't understand that? the tradition of French is honorable. I don't think it needs to go away, but it needs to give way to whatever the people can consume, what they can understand.
Passe, on nous parle la vérité. You are at the French part. Même créole là pas famille. Si tout le monde pas même comprendre ou pas parler de français. You know what I'm saying? What are we talking about here? Dude, even the Creole, bro, man. I mean, it's like a lot of them struggle.
Yeah, and if we don't speak Creole and we don't speak French, are we still a Haitian church? So that's that point. Okay, so if we want to retain that identity of a Haitian church, we need to be strategic about it. That means we equip these kids with the capacity to function as Haitians. Because man, when these kids, it is them on that mic singing those Creole songs and even those French songs, the atmosphere in the audience, it changes. That church changes when. So fine, they've got the gifting. Now we as pastors need to understand, what do I need to equip them with? See, that's that idea of understanding that I'm sweating, no message, m'a volé, m'a sauté, m'a pompé. Did they get anything from that? No. But you know what? Let's break it down and begin to give them what they need, equip them to use these tools in order to minister to the people of God, because they've got the gifting. So all of a sudden, the mindset has to change, bro.
So we had a couple of young ladies in the worship team, and they were one of them was born here. The other one came in, I think, when she was like probably 6 months.
It's quite young.
So I mean they could blow. They could blow. The gifting is there, but the leader had to challenge them to start learning Creole songs. At first, there's one of them that really despised it. Like she just didn't like it at all. But as much as the leader continued to encourage her and challenge her, and it got to a point where her Creole got better because she was learning songs and
Okay.
Creole.
There's a young woman you know. She's the sister of the same young woman we were talking about that went to minister. The young one.
Yeah.
She reads, writes Creole very well now. And you ask her how? Well, I was reading the Chant d'Espérance when we were singing. My daughter reads Creole very well. She writes Creole very well.
My little sister too.
Yes.
And she was born here.
Church. My daughter was definitely born here. Church. So the thing is, there's a lot about using the church in order to get the kids into the culture, but we have to understand that they're coming from a different culture to open up space for them to come in and be able to identify that they fit here. That we have to teach them that this is a birthright, that this is something that it is an honor to be able to look. I am Haitian. I am from a Haitian church. I speak Creole. I speak Creole. I understand it. And to me, that when they understand that Creole worship, when they can feel that Creole, it helps you with your relationship with God. I'm trying to tell you, I've gone down to American church, and I remember being out in college, and I loved the American church. Oh my God, I learned so much. There was a young pastor. He was good. He was American. But the moment I walked into the Haitian church,
something about it, man.
And it resonates with my spirit, because that's what I knew. And the thing is, a lot of these kids, the moment they depart and they come back, they will understand what they were missing, because it's part of them. However, the problem is not them coming back. The problem is the fact they had to depart to begin with, and we have to do some things about that, bro.
And sometimes they don't even come back at all.
Oh, fast. Let me ask you a question. 10 to 15 years from now, where do you see, unless we do something about this, we address the cultural issues, we address the generational issues, we address the issues with content, we address the issues with form, unless we do this, where do you see the Haitian church going in 10 to 15 years?
We already have a problem in our hands. I think we will have a bigger problem in our hands. Because let me put it like this to you: I went to visit a Haitian church this past Sunday, and it's a church in the community. Man, has been there for 47 years.
Wow.
Been in the community for a very long time, and majority of the church is consists of elderly people. So that's the average member. I'm looking around is in their late 50s, mid 50s, and then you would see the youth, and you will see there's quite a few of them that are in their mid 20s, late 20s, early 30s, and then you'd see the little kids, and those who are in their mid 20s and early 30s, they are struggling because yes, they are serving, but they are not receiving much. And then you have the youth who has been on a declining state. And I'm sitting there, I'm like, if they don't quickly get a youth pastor to go ahead and come and serve and maintain what they have here and raise young leaders and actually include the young people as part of this whole entity, someone to advocate for the youth, then 10-15 years from now, majority of these old people are going to be
gone.
20 years from now, it'll be those who were in their 20s,
Okay.
those who were in their 30s that will be there. That's if they decided to stay.
here's the
That's if
problem.
they're not gone.
They're going to be there giving what when they weren't receiving? And therein lies another issue. It's like a double-fold, tri-fold problem. Because here's my issue. You're saying that they weren't receiving. Let me ask you, is it possible that the form can prevent me from receiving content even if the content is good? Because I don't believe that generation of pastors hasn't received an inspiration. They have received an inspiration.
They do.
Oh, I've been privy and I've been blessed by it. I am a product of that inspiration. However, the presentation or the form that the content, the inspiration is being presented to those youth, to that youth. Is it possible that it's simply not palatable because of the form?
Pass. I fait chanter, yon chanter chita, camper chita,
Au fun.
au fun.
25 minutes annonce.
25 minutes d'action. It's like, bro, at this point, when I'm seeing it, it's like we never even give the Holy Spirit a chance to we never really even establish a flow. It seems like it was just the program was just okay.
It's a routine. It's a tradition.
It's so routine. It's so tradition. It's like, why can't you just sing 3-4 songs? You know what I'm saying? And have and just flow.
Give me a chance to connect.
Give me a chance to connect. And I'm sitting there. I'm like, bro. Man, I'm just sitting there. I said, man.
Et puis ça collègue là, faut chanter en français, and it's not like a common French, because in the common everyday French, I'm great with it. Sometimes they got this French that's old school, so it's the
it was
equivalent.
written in
It's the equivalent of the King James version. So you're trying to get me to understand King James French? It's like, what are you doing?
Listen, man.
And that's the songs.
I read the King James version, bro, but I have different Bibles, different versions, and I sit there and I would go ahead and read them all to get a different perspective, that the word is different, man, and all that stuff. and then that helps me to go ahead and okay, in this verse right here, I'm gonna use this version because this one will.
Yeah. Okay. Let me add to that, and I'm going to switch it from the word to well, I'm gonna keep it the word, but it's gonna go to some of the songs that we sing. There has been an uptick in worship. This generation has learned to love worship way more than they ever did. Before it was like, yo, okay, now I'm having fun, get compad, this and that. That's what they were into. Now there is this vibe of worship. One, the form of the worship is different because now it's an Americanized way of playing the music. It's not 1, 4, 5 chords. These are sophisticated chords. The progressions are beautiful. The keyboards, everybody's the gifting. There's a place for their gifting to shine. Masterfully done. That's one. Two, there's a rash of inspiration from, especially out of Haiti. I recognize it out of Haiti a lot. Like, we're talking about the Dilly Bensons. We're talking about some of these guys. The songs, first and foremost, they're in Creole. I understand what I'm saying.
At times I don't even know who sings the song, but I just know it.
I know the song by heart. I know everything. I know some of the vocal runs, but I don't know who's singing. And it's amazing. And that has really encouraged the youth to find their way. That's proof that if 10, 15 years ago, we'd understood that, okay, language is a bit of a barrier. Culture is a bit of a barrier. Let's open and remove those barriers to allow them in, because when they're in, they have a chance to connect and have a legitimate and genuine encounter with God. If that was our mindset, instead of, since I've always traditionally done it this way, it must be done this way, then it'd be fine. You see, after they got into the Creole and they began to understand the Creole, all of a sudden, they're trying now to understand some of the French. So it's like, they begin to, there's some French songs and the French is just hard and rough. And you watch these young people worshiping with it. Why? Because all of a sudden you had the Dilly Bensons, you had the New Age worship coming in. And now because they've tasted worship, now they're actively trying to understand some of these French songs that we sing. It means we could have done it well if we weren't stuck in our traditions. So my issue with this, evolution has to be allowed in place of tradition. The only issue is this: we have to be mindful where we evolve. We cannot let the gospel evolve, because that's not it. The gospel stands as is.
Principles doesn't evolve.
Thank you.
The laws, no. So it's. Can you imagine if Samson had trademark the jar of the donkey bone, and then now when you have everybody, as long as you have a jar of donkey bone, then you think that you are Simpson, and all of a sudden, I was like, you about to get your get short, kick, man. So it's like, not all traditions are bad.
I like that. Yeah, say that.
But we must learn to filter out what works and what doesn't work, even if it was there for centuries, for a long time. If it doesn't work anymore, if it doesn't work in that setting anymore, let it go. It's okay. Because the truth is, man, it's such a beautiful thing. It's such a beautiful melting pot where you can have a few songs in Creole, you know what I'm saying, a few songs in English, and then
now they got these African songs just
and then you have these African songs, and then you have and then Oula gon ti kompate, mes amis, l'Éternel kembe. You know what I'm saying? It's like that's us. Like
let us be us.
Like, we want it now. It's like we want it. We got to have it, and it's just such a beautiful thing. But if you stay there, you know, chaque jour no ti solennel no, you know.
And here's the thing: I'm okay if there are certain ministries that retain that.
Yeah, that's
because
fine.
there's certain people that will be blessed in that. I'm okay with it.
Yes, and there's people. Yep.
But as a pastor, you gotta understand, if that is the route that you're going to take, or we're going to retain that, you need to understand that you have to find a way to mitigate the church, the youth that's going to leave, Or you need to understand that, okay, I know they're going to leave, but I'm not equipped to serve them. I'm equipped to serve these people.
So what you is saying here when you're talking about target audience?
Don't say that. It makes it look like marketing, and that apparently,
I know.
Because the Haitian church is like,
yeah, but we're not called to everybody though.
that's just it. You're not.
Listen, the calling is worldwide,
Mm-hmm.
but the reality is everyone, a unit is not going to reach out to everybody.
Mm-hmm.
So you may have, a specific people that you are called to serve, man, and all that stuff. You do that to the best of your ability. You serve them. Don't you dare rob them. Serve them. You know what I'm saying? With your gifting. That's why God gave you the gift and the talent for. It's to be able to serve others so that others can benefit from what God has placed on the inside of you.
Tradition had beat me up so badly. It took me over a decade for me to understand who I was called to serve. I had been in ministry for over a decade, never understanding who it was I was called to serve.
And you still get on me about wearing a tie, man.
That's what it is. You gotta understand the tradition. You gotta understand it. Understand it and respect it.
Listen,
My
guys,
thing is this.
I just hate it, man. Don't like it. Don't. You know what I'm saying? I feel it's like I don't mind wearing a nice suit and a nice jacket, man, and all that stuff.
But the tie's not for you.
But the tie, just give me a pocket square in just a small little lapel pin. I am good. I am ready to go. I am ready to go. But you know what I'm saying? But at any given time, and I gotta look at my wife and say, do I really have to wear a tie? Do I really have to?
Alright.
But anyway.
Okay, well, we've got to wrap this thing up at some point.
So how do we bridge that gap?
Okay, to bridge the gap, there are a couple of things we need to understand. One, we need to, philosophically, we have to change how it is we view church. Philosophically, we have to change our mindset. We have to make sure church is no longer a set of traditions, because this is what it is. Church is just a bunch of traditions. All of a sudden, we got to understand that the only way we survive are people that are changing, are people that are evolving, are people that are exposed to so much more, people that have access to so much more information, to have access to so much more education, is one, to educate ourselves, and two, to understand that our traditions, they started somewhere. This is not what they always were. Since traditions started somewhere, they're going to have to end somewhere. And we're going to have established new traditions that fit these people without sacrificing the integrity of the gospel or the word of God.
100% correct.
That is the first part. We don't ever negotiate or sacrifice the integrity of the gospel. But the traditions that were found in the church, those we have to make sure we retain what works for us and discard what doesn't work for us. If that means changing language, so be it. If that means changing the style of music, so be it. If that means changing the form of the service to where it's not mon petit bout de chant là, un petit bout de chant là, un petit bout de chant là, en français que pas monde qui comprenne, then so be it. We adapt in order to create an environment where people can have a legitimate connection with God. Our job is not to have them sing in French. Our job is not to have them sing Trois Créoles Chant d'Espérance ou bien 27 Français Chant d'Espérance. No, our job is to create an environment where they can have that contact with God. So let's strip all the things that we thought were essential and understand that no, let's work towards creating that environment. And then apprenticeship. We need to raise a generation after us. Christ had disciples. Paul had Timothy. Every man of God in the Bible, Moses had a Joshua. That means there is always that thing, I will raise the man that is. I am not threatened by your gifting. I'm not threatened by God calling you. Samuel in the temple. That's that idea. Look, come, I will give you a route to take so that your gifting is available to the people of God, because that is what we need. The people of God, they need to have that encounter with God. And our job is to foster that. So if that's the case, let's have that apprenticeship. Boss, go ahead. Speak on it. Speak on it. Speak on it. So, what
So-
do we do, Boss? How do we bridge that gap?
Well, I mean, one of the things that we must do, we have to have some kind of interest in each other's world.
Yeah.
Because-
That's
Because
deep.
because if I don't even make an attempt to learn about your world, to learn about how you function, how you operate, your mindset, your thought process, how you view things, your perspective, then there's already a disconnect there.
Mm-hmm.
But if both of us are not trying to meet somewhere in the middle and to see, okay, what do we have in common here? Okay, you believe in Jesus? You believe that you are called? I believe that I'm called because I've been doing it for 30 years. Okay. Education? Yes. Training? Yes. Being impactful? Yes. And then, okay, then now we can go ahead and set our differences to the side and focus on what we actually have in common. And we will actually be surprised of how much we actually have in common with the older generation. I'll tell you this, day by day, I'm realizing that I am more like my dad than I thought I was. As I get older, just the mannerism and even the principles, the little things, and you know, cause usually, you know, when a Haitian mommy calls, ah, c'est ras papa, or c'est ça, usually c'est un jugement ou bien c'est un mauvais défaut. But I'm starting to realize that, man, I am a lot more like my dad. And then now, I have a better understanding of my dad now. Now we have a fantastic relationship. We talk, man, on a regular basis. I'll go over, we sit down, and we hang out, and you know, he wants to know what I have going on. I want to know what he has going on. If he's making a decision, he'll come here, hey, what do you think? I'm thinking about doing this and we'll actually sit down and, but we have to come to an understanding, which eventually, time also plays a factor, but also life. When life gets to life, and you begin to realize, crap, I need the wisdom.
Yes, sir.
I need. Listen, it is such a great pleasure, man. I mean, I take pleasure in initiating conversation with older people.
Yes, sir.
Especially the older ministers, the gray-headed ones. I sit
Been
there and
through some stuff.
I'm like, Pass, how did you do this? Pass, how did this you know, change your life? How did I had a conversation with the man of God. I think he's in his mid-60s, and he has 6 kids. And I asked him a question. I said, Pass, you've had a lot of kids. And I said, looking from the outside in, it seems like you did a pretty good job, and a job well done. And everyone seems to be doing well. Everyone seems to be, you know, he said, man, yes, but at the same time, you know, there's always, you know, one that's defined or two. That was where I was coming from. I was like, usually there's always a one or two that's defined and that goes their ways and their path. Hopefully, that God will bring them back. And I began to ask him questions about parenting. I began to ask him about some of the experiences that he actually had to go through, and I learned so much. But if I look at him as just, this is just an old man, just an old guy, I don't think in this generation our young people has the eye or the vision for wisdom, for obtaining wisdom, because that requires you to be humble. You gotta ask questions, Because if you don't ask questions, and of course you gotta have good intention too.
Mm-hmm.
Because sometimes there's people who actually, it's for some malice reasons, but with the right intentions, that you actually can obtain wisdom.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes you'll be surprised that they were just looking for an ear to actually drop those things on somebody. And that's why I was raised by my grandmother. All of my life I've been surrounded majority of the time by people who are older than me. I befriend people who are older than me because I understood something. I said, man, yes, it's good to have friends my age, but I need someone who is further up the road, so that there's certain mistakes that I don't make. Listen, it is idiotic to pay the price for something that someone else already paid the price for it, and that person is within your proximity. It doesn't make any sense.
I agree with that. 100%.
It doesn't make any question for you, and then we will end. To a young minister, what is the biggest mistake that you've made in ministry, in every chance that you actually get, that you actually share that with somebody so that they can avoid that pitfall?
My biggest mistake in ministry, and it's something I didn't discover too long ago, was I didn't understand how to view the church correctly. I viewed the church as a purely spiritual entity and didn't understand that it was an organization. So I understood the role of the pastor to push and educate and elevate people so that they grew spiritually, but I did not understand how to provide them through the machinations of the organization means to grow in other aspects of their life. So I am guilty at spending the first decade of ministry pushing people spiritual growth, without asking them, how are you doing financially? How is your family going? Without ever encouraging the young man to say, yo, bruh, I love the fact that you're here every service, you're here every night, this and that, but aren't you taking some courses in something to better yourself? How are you doing? So, because I viewed church, growing up in church, I understand, hallelujah, thank you, Jesus, everybody's got it. I did not understand to step back and say, while you are moving into God, you have an authentic connection with God, and you're preparing for heaven, make sure you're preparing for earth. I didn't understand that. And we just had a major event at our church, and what catalyzed that was when God revealed that to me in a message. I was on stage in the middle of a message that I had prepared, and suddenly God said, no, that was your preparation, let me shift the message. And that was the revelation that came through. And then how I went about administrating anything that was in the church that I was responsible for, it took that form. And that really pushed us, catalyzed some of the major changes that have occurred in the ministry where I serve. So to the young man, your job is not to take care of the soul or to feed the souls that God has placed in front of you. God has placed people in front of you. That is a mind, that is a body, and the soul. So to the church, your job is not just to equip them how to fight demons, but they must be equipped at how to fight financial issues. They must be equipped at how to fight social issues. They must be equipped at how to fight physical issues. Go to the hospital, bro, you're sick. We have to teach them. Because I'm looking at Christ, and it took, and these are the stories that I saw all the time. I knew these stories by heart, but I never saw that aspect of it. Because Christ would come and he would teach them. And when they had demons, he would cast out the demons. When they had physical infirmities, he would heal their physical infirmities. When they were hungry, he would feed them. He took care of the mind, the body, and the soul. But the Haitian church, I learned, let's just take care of the soul, and God will provide the rest. That's not how the Bible taught it. It took me forever to learn that. And I think now I'm equipped to serve better this generation of people, of this generation of Christians, the people that I'm actually called to serve after having learned that lesson. It took me a decade in ministry to learn that. So that's what I would share with any young minister. So this is our apprenticeship, me sharing that with you. You gotta learn that, bro.
And listen,
Don't make the mistake I made.
We needed that one. Mine was, I love people, but sometimes my way of going about it or expressing it wasn't always the best. I remember one of the worst things I've ever said to anybody, bro. So this young, zealous, stupid, seriously, like literally stupid. If we're being honest, bro.
I've been the stupid one, so I understand.
And so I text this person. I said, "Hey, are you coming to service tonight? This and that, whatever, blah blah." And I think I need to. And I think the main reason why I even text the person was because just in case if the person needed a ride or something like that, I'd like to plan ahead. And then the person said, "Well, there's somebody that died and this and that or whatever, blah blah blah, yada yada." Me thinking, man, I was Jesus. I said, man, let the dead bury the dead. That was the most insensitive thing that I've ever said to anybody. And then they went in there and filed a complaint to my leader at that time and all that stuff. And ever since then, bro, I said, you know what? I gotta be careful with the way I talk to people, man.
A little bit more grace of the tongue.
A little bit more grace of the tongue. Now, if someone, I just smile, I shake my head, okay.
And I get the impression that you've been through more now. I'm more forgiving as a leader now.
Oh man,
because life has beaten me up enough. Like there's some things I've gone through where I can be more forgiving because I've been the recipient of a couple of slaps and smacks from life and be like, life is lifing on you. I'm gonna pray for you. Go ahead, you it's okay. I'm gonna pray for you. So I've learned that as well.
I knew I needed grace, but I didn't know to what extent. Man, I really needed it until life began to happen in me, until certain things began to happen in me. My brother, when it comes to forgiveness, there was one thing, man, I struggled with. Man, I struggled with forgiveness and grace for a while. But man, it took years before I actually understand it. And actually now, bro, I am an advocate for grace. Because I'm like,
but you had to get there.
Yeah, man, I had to get there. Oh man, I had to get there. Oh man, I mean,
Pass, this was a beautiful moment. Let me explain.
Oh my goodness, bro.
Pass, this was a beautiful moment, and let me explain why I want to say this. This is the kind of conversations we, growing up, should have been having with our pastors.
Oh yeah,
that would have helped us to bridge the gap where we come in. Pass, what were your mistakes? Son, let me tell you what my mistakes were. Hey, Pass, what were your strengths? Son, let me tell you where God gave me grace and I was able to overcome this because I had this. And all of a sudden, I'm not learning some of these lessons. The zeal that I have, it's pointed in the right direction because I had a mentor. I'm part of this apprenticeship type relationship. That's how we bridge it. We reach out to each other.
Pass, I fear for the younger ministers who are zealous about ministry and serving God, that lacks the wisdom and the experience. It doesn't matter how much wisdom you have as a young man or a young woman. Certain things you will only learn them through experiences. And time always plays a factor. Because there are things that there were words of wisdom and warnings that were given to me that I didn't understand it until like 5, 6, 7 years later.
When you were flat on your back, looking up at life.
And we're like, wow, this is what they meant the whole entire time. And that's why a great teacher always give their mentee, their students, room, grace to be able to, although you don't want them to make certain mistakes, but sometimes it is essential that certain things, yes,
They fall.
because if not, then they will. It doesn't matter how much you tell them that don't wear this type of shoe, this type of weather.
Okay, let's wrap up on
Because
this.
it,
Let's wrap
you
up
know
on
what?
this. Let's wrap up on this because we'll never end.
This is getting too good, guys. Thank you for tuning in.
Man, this was awesome. This was
it
awesome.
is,
This was a moment. This was a good moment.
A pleasure for having you guys joining us. We are thrilled. We are grateful.
Oh,
And,
well, Pastor, I want to make sure we say this.
Yes.
So anybody out there who followed and you maybe, I'm hoping you learned something. Do us a favor. We're on multiple platforms. We are on Facebook. We have a like page. It's Backyard Convos. Take that. I want you to go ahead and like that page and then follow that page. We will have things coming up for you.
Share
We are
it
on-
with
please
somebody.
share it with somebody.
Yeah.
We're hoping that these words get out there and they can be impactful to the community. We're on Instagram as well,
That is correct.
and we
TikTok.
are on TikTok as well.
Yes, and we are also on YouTube.
We're also on YouTube. So do us a favor as we begin to grow this platform to be able to share this type of messaging with the community and hopefully with the church. Help us. And what you can do, go onto one of those platforms or all of those platforms. Go ahead and abonne, share, like. You know how it works. And God bless you.
God bless you guys. We'll see you guys soon.
Backyard Convos Podcast.